Crypto Banter is the world's first interactive social cast for the crypto community. Get the latest news.
Call up a chart for me, and I want you to tell me which way this chart is going. And that's the chart of Cardano. ADA, Cardano.
ADA. Oh,
ADA.
man.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. I'm going to show you something that's a textbook setup that I...
You know why I'm asking this? Because in a few minutes, it was supposed to be on the hour, but we are running a little bit late. We've got Charles Hoskinson here, and he's going to be talking Cardano with us. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to keep you on the line for that segment so we can bring you in to ask Charles some questions. But let's look at the chart, because this chart tells a story.
Yes. So I was talking about this having a Kumo breakout retest trade. It fit all the bills. We had a bullish Kumo. We had a bullish Kumo a bullish Chico span. Sorry, a bullish Kumo twist. We had, our Tenkan was above the Kijinsen. We had all the setup, the perfect setup for this to have a big time move. And I thought I missed it. So it broke out. It never came back and retested the top of the cloud. And I was like, damn, I missed it. And it went all the way. And I was like, ah, man, because I love Cardano. I actually met Charles in Bangkok like 2.5 years ago at Beyond Blocks. And I remember him saying, we're building Lamborghinis. We're not building Hondas. And I was watching it, and I set up a trade down here, and it just like came right back down the other day. This was the easiest trade you could have ever made in your whole life. It's literally still up 40%. And all you had to do is just set your buy order at the Kumo breakout retest. So that's what I was drawing here. Kumo will break out. It will retest and go higher. It ended up going and breaking out and just going on a moon mission for like 5 days. And then it came back down and retested. So great opportunity to get in there. Will we continue to go higher now? Very likely, because we had a nice bounce off this Kijinsen, and now it seems like it's trying to go up towards this level. And if it breaks 18, it's going to 22 cents. And ADA is very bullish for me. Like I really like the project. I think that there's things about it should be doing. I want to see it. I want to see it grow, and I want to see the community continue to grow and just see it being used as much as some of the other projects out there, and get the name and the buzz back. Because I remember buying Cardano when it was like 10 cents and going to almost $1, and I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing. So I want to see that happen again from a trading perspective. But I know Charles is working on this for years. I met you I think 2 years ago at Beyond Blocks, Charles.
Yeah. So that's an amazing intro. Joel, I'm going to keep you on the line so we can talk to Charles. Charles, it's such an honor to have you on the show. And for the guests who are watching us now on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button now, because the more you hit the subscribe and the like button, the more people can hear this amazing content with Charles Hoskinson live on our show. Now, there are very few tokens or platforms that can be called Ethereum killers and actually mean it. And if there is one, then it's probably one that is started or founded by someone who was at Ethereum. And that's none other than Charles Hoskinson. Now, I've been a friend of Charles. I've seen him around. We spent a lot of time together. And there's been amazing things happening on Cardano. But I want to take our viewers back throughout the whole journey. And let's go from the beginning and see what's happening now on Cardano. Charles, welcome to Crypto Banter. Nice to see you. Joel, we're going to put you on hold, and we're going to catch up with you because we're going to look at the Cardano chart at the end of the show. Charles, welcome to Crypto Banter.
Rand, it's great to be on. I think we've seen each other all over the world, South Africa, Miami, all throughout Asia. Although no one can travel right now, next year I think is going to be a booming year.
Well, at least I get you on video. I mean, we have been to many countries, Korea. I think we were in Japan. I think we were in South Africa. We spoke at a conference together in South Africa with Tumelo Ramaphosa, who's the son of Cyril Ramaphosa. Yeah. Charles, let's talk about Cardano. The last time that we spoke, you guys were just doing Shelly, or the first stage of Shelly. Yeah. And that was effectively the start of staking in Cardano, right?
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard to do that.
So update us. Where are we at today?
Yeah. So we had a multi-year research agenda to figure out how to build a foundation for consensus that eventually could scale to billions of users. And that's what Vitalik has been doing with F2 and Casper and that whole agenda. And they had more money in a year of extra time on us, and we beat them to market. So it's like when AMD beats Intel or something like that. It's always nice that the underdog has the ability to do that. So we launched Shelley in July, and it's been getting more and more decentralized over time. We're about, I think 60% of the blocks are made by the stake pool operators, 40% by the hybrid nodes. And by March, the network will be completely decentralized. And so mission accomplished. Shelley's looking great. We're still upgrading and updating a few things there, but we're also building the other parts of Cardano in parallel. So now we're turning on all the Goguen components. So those are smart contracts. So we can bring dApps and DeFi and these things to the network. And we've also been turning on all the governance components as well, Voltaire, which is just like having a VC in the sky and a National Science Foundation in the sky to give grants for people to get where they need to go. So we just launched our first fund, Fund 2. That's completely public and going to be publicly voted, and it's going to give away $250,000 to different projects, and we have over 4,000 people participating there, and the fund size will just keep growing. So it's going to go from 250,000 to 500,000 to $1 million, and eventually it'll get to a nice resting pace of maybe $5 to $10 million every 6 to 8 weeks that'll be injected into the community for dApps, DeFi, grants, research, maintenance, and so forth. So we're firing on all cylinders. We're #1 in GitHub commits. We have one of the largest dev teams around, over 100 people, I think a dozen companies at this point working. And we have a lot of great announcements this month, next month, and a lot of cool things are coming. Around February, we should have multi-asset coming in, and smart contracts, as I mentioned, are on their way. And we have a great commercial pipeline as well. My company has over 110, I think, commercial deals that we're negotiating right now across the spectrum. Some are Cardano related, some are not. But we always try to push people towards Cardano, and we're making some great progress in Africa as well. We were going to make a big Ethiopia announcement in November, but they had this civil war thing going on, and I guess that takes priority and precedence for the moment.
Slow down, because you're telling me too much, and I'm trying to absorb all of this. You've got also, you have got a very vibrant community. They've gone crazy. They've gone on the comments saying, I was part of the first stake pool, Cardano going up, Cardano going to the moon. Everyone listen closely. Take me back a second and let's look at the fundamentals of any protocol. So the fundamentals of any protocol come down to 2 or 3 things. The first thing is to have good technology. And in this case, that means fast, decentralized technology.
Right.
And the second part of it is building a vibrant community. Now, when we talk about building a vibrant community, that doesn't mean a community on Telegram, on Twitter. It means a community of developers, a community of venture capital investors plowing money into the project. Now, if we look at Ethereum, if we are critical of Ethereum, we could say that Ethereum's technology isn't very good. It's great technology, but it's not very scalable technology. And they now have to change the engines mid-air. But they've got a very smart, vibrant, big community. There's lots of money. The VC money is on Ethereum. Therefore, the DeFi community is starting to develop on Ethereum. Now, with those parallels in mind, let's talk about how Cardano compares to Ethereum. So let's talk about the technology first. Let's look at the technology. When I compare Cardano's technology to Ethereum's technology, give me the comparison.
Well, we do everything they aspire to do, and we do it soon or now, and they do it over the next 3 years, they claim. We started from a first principles basis, so we didn't just make stuff up. We went to the academy. We recruited 25 PhDs. We have 4 universities, core university labs that are working with us, and a constellation of other universities across the world, from Edinburgh to people at University of Illinois, people at University of Wyoming, et cetera, et cetera. And we wrote now 91 papers. And these papers, a lot of them have gone through the peer review process. And we've gotten third-party academic verification that the things we think are true are true. And not from people in the cryptocurrency space, but people in the academic community, the cryptography space, real academics, the RSA people, and so forth. Okay, so that was the first step.
Are they saying that Cardano can decentralize itself and keep high TPS or high throughput?
We already have that. We have 1,200 plus stake pools that are registered. Stake pools are right now making blocks every day. As the price of ADA goes up, we get more decentralized over time, and we don't lose performance. In fact, it's the opposite. We gain it. So that core design feature that we scientifically validated, which is as your price goes up, you get more decentralized and you preserve or increase your throughput of your system. That was the holy grail, and we spent 5 years in deep R&D. We're the #1 most cited academic project, and then we actually built simulations, then we built a test net, then we actually deployed it onto the main net. And we have hundreds of thousands of users, and our transaction volume's up by 600% this year, and we keep seeing growth. And the technology has tons of growth potential. Right now, at the base layer, we can be at 150 TPS. Just optimizations there should take us to 1,000 TPS. Then when we add on state channels, which were built, hybrid channels were built hand in glove to work with Ouroboros, we can go to 1,000,000 TPS if we wanted to, or beyond, because every stake pool operator can run a channel. So the
is that a function? Is that a function of the genius behind the Shelley upgrade or the Shelley hard fork?
Yeah,
is that the split, the fork that caused this scalability?
But remember, Shelley didn't start this year. We'd been working on it since 2016. You know, we had so many people who spent year after year writing paper after paper, formal specifications, simulations, code, prototypes, these types of things. We turned it on this year. But it's really, really hard to actually build this technology in practice. And there are only a few protocols out there that were built with this level of foresight, like the Algorands and others like that. And they all have the same legacy. They started in the academy. They had the benefit of hindsight. They could take a look at 30 years of systems engineering. They could look at what worked and what didn't work in the cryptocurrency space. And then they could systematically build out the scientific corpus. We did this holistically. So we didn't just build a consensus algorithm and say, okay, we're done. We said we need to build a network stack. We need to also build a smart contract programming language. We need to figure out interoperability. We need to figure out governance. We need to figure out how we're going to do side chains. There's a humongous agenda. It's why we have 100+ people working full time just in our own company and a dozen partners across the world that are working on it. And they've been doing this for 5 years. And 2020 was really the first year where these things started turning on. And 2021 is where they all turn on. And then we have all these things. We have a governance stack where people can vote on forks. We have a funding mechanism that will inject 50 to 100 million plus dollars, depending on price of ADA, into the ecosystem every single year. We have incredibly high throughput. We have predictable costs for smart contracts. There's going to be tons of things. Some things we're announcing in a few days about Ethereum and so forth. We have the ERC20 converter, which allows you to take your ERC20 token, convert it over to run on Cardano.
I want to talk about that because I think that's fundamental. But just for some of our viewers who are asking the question on the YouTube chat, they're asking fundamentally, what did Shelley do? What does Shelley mean?
Yeah.
Why was Shelley such a big milestone?
So we went from a static and federated system where a small group of actors like XRP, that type of a model, basically go to a decentralized and dynamic system like an Ethereum or a Bitcoin, where you have a lot of participants who are involved in consensus. So you can really look at consensus in terms of 3 things. You can say, okay, who's making the blocks? Are the blocks being broadcast in a decentralized way? And then finally, the meta, which is, okay, how many people are involved in the maintenance, the upgrading, and future of the system, the use and utility of the system. So there's a holistic notion of decentralization there. The point of Shelley was to put all the infrastructure in place for the first 2, and the Voltaire upgrade is all the infrastructure for the 3rd component. So every single 5 days, more and more of the blocks are made by the stake pool operators, and there's a huge set of them. And then the network infrastructure, we're turning on all the peer-to-peer infrastructure. So block production and block broadcasting will be completely decentralized at a scale 100x over what Bitcoin has by March. Then in terms of governance, we introduced 2 really amazing concepts. One is something called the hard fork combinator. What this means is that it's really easy for us to do a hard fork in our system. Usually these are huge events and they're very stressful and you have to build all this consensus. All of the rules of the old Byron era, that was from September of 2017 up till July, run in parallel with the rules in the Shelley era, which started in July of this year. When we go to the Gauguin era, those rules will run in parallel with the Shelley and the Byron, and it's almost like appending these things. So it's very easy to just glue and upgrade your network. And so then you need a consensus system to vote on what to do for a hard fork. So we created the improvement proposal process this year with the Cardano Foundation, and we'll have a full voting system for software updates. And we've been designing that update system with the European Union. We were actually a grant recipient for a project called Horizons 2020 with IBM Research and Guard Time. And the whole point of that program was to centralize software updates. So you don't have to have a single company or a single set of key holders, you have a natural way of updating, upgrading. So for years, we've been thinking about it. That will combine with a hard fork combinator, and then you have decentralized upgrades in the system. So you can remove any actor in your system, IOHK, you can remove the foundation, Emergo, and the system still functions as if they weren't even, as if they were still there. And no one person can control the destiny of the system. And as I said,
that's where the governance and the decentralization.
Exactly.
Charles, the lines are going absolutely mad here. So I'm going to just remind the viewers on YouTube, if you are watching this and it seems like everybody seems to be liking this because the lines have gone absolutely crazy, the comments have gone absolutely crazy, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button now. We need those likes. We need those subscribers to make sure that people get this content. Also, this might be your only chance to speak to Charles Hoskinson live. If you want to call in to speak to Charles, on the YouTube, there is a StreamYard link. You can click the StreamYard link. You'll come directly into the studio. There are also call-in numbers, which are live on the screen right now. You can WhatsApp us. You can Telegram us at Crypto Banter, or you can go to our website and you can call in and you can remain absolutely anonymous. Charles, the big question that people are asking here on the YouTube is, when are smart contracts coming?
Yeah, so we've been gradually turning those on. So we're going to have a big show, a dedicated announcement December 3rd. So just in 2 days, we do a monthly update every month. And we push this one back by a week because of Thanksgiving. And it's all about smart contracts. So I'm not going to say anything there, but we have parallel threads and we have different smart contract models from Turing complete to Turing incomplete. Some that live in the Ethereum world, some that are in our world like Plutus and Extended UTXO. So if you're really interested in that, 2 days from now, attend that. I don't want to front run any of our announcements that we're making there, but all I can say is soon. And I think people are pleasantly surprised.
Soon, you're saying soon. Give us a little bit more of a hint. When you drop this news, is this going to be from that day on smart contracts are live, or is this going to be another roadmap?
I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised about it, especially developers, because they have something to do. So okay. I won't spoil the announcement, but I think people are going to be very happy about it.
All right. So once Cardano has smart contracts, it has decentralization, it has staking already. Once it has smart contracts, is there anything that Ethereum can do that Cardano can't do immediately?
No. We'll do everything and more. And we'll also have predictable costings. We'll have a lower operational cost, much easier time sharding, easier time adapting other technology. We have a full governance layer, because the problem is no one ever asks this question. What happens when you get 1 million users, 10 million users, 100 million users, 1 billion users? How do you avoid the Cardano Classic or the Cardano Cash, the Bitcoin Cash, the Ethereum Classic? Because how do you actually evolve the system? You can be like Bitcoin, where you just change nothing. And you can watch the whole world driving by, and you never really update because it's so hard to even do something like SegWit or figure out the block debate, much less smart contracts or more sophisticated crypto. So what are these systems? What's their future look like? Either you don't evolve, or you have to find a governance system to allow you to evolve, or you have to announce a dictator and say, Bob over here is just going to make the decision of when the system upgrades or not. So one of the keys beyond just doing what Ethereum does and beating them in performance and cost, which we're going to do, is also saying we have a strategy for how we can get to 100 million, 1 billion users and still be as nimble and agile as we were in the beginning of the project, and still be able to have predictable upgrades and updates and a governance layer that actually get us to the next level as we uncover more challenges.
Now, I want to talk about staking on the Cardano network. From what I understand, the staking rewards are pretty low. I mean, the staking rewards are what, 5% per year, so to speak?
Yeah.
And one of the questions here in the YouTube is, how do I become a validator? How do I become a staker?
Yeah, super simple. Just download the Daedalus wallet or Yoroi. It's a browser-based wallet. And then there's a whole delegation center. Super easy for you just to delegate to anybody that you want to. If you want to run a stake pool, there's actually several guides on Cardano.org that actually explain how to set up a stake pool, register a stake pool. Super easy to do. It's just, as long as you understand a little bit about command line and these types of things. But there are many tutorials there. And so we tried to make it as helpful as possible. And there's actually several channels on Telegram and on the Cardano forum and so forth, where stake pool operators actually help people get on board and learn. We even have stake pool guilds that are forming, like Spakra and other things, that are basically trade organizations specifically for stake pool operators. So
and are the staking rewards as low as I said? I mean, are they around 5%? I mean,
it depends. It depends on a lot of factors, like who you delegate to, and then there's some stochasticism in it. But they generally range between 5 to 8%, is what we say, and that's the reality. I mean, it's like, you know, we built the network the last 100 years and 200 years. I mean, would you rather get 5% of a coin that is going to be in the top 10, or would you rather get 25% of a coin in the top 500 or top 1,000 that disintegrates in 3 years?
Taking a much more fundamental approach to everything. And I think the staking rewards just say that if you look at the community, when you look at the number of tokens, there are a huge number of the circulating supply tokens that are already staked, right?
Yeah, I think right now 50 or 60% of the circulating supply is staked. The only one that has a slightly higher amount is Polkadot. I think next year we should be able to match that. So we're number 2 in terms of total supply stake. The other thing is you don't need to bond. So that's one big difference between our system and Casper and Polkadot and these other things. You usually have to lock your coins or something. With our system, you don't. When you delegate, you delegate. There's no bonding or slashing or punitive.
And when you want your coins back, you get your coins back.
You get your coins back, which is,
they're not locked up for 2 years like
exactly.
other new networks that are going into version 2.0, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's the tech, and there's a lot more questions around the tech, particularly around the Ethereum token swap. And it seems that, you know, part of your strategy is to get Ethereum projects to be able to easily migrate onto the Cardano blockchain. How do you intend to do that?
Well, you do it in a 2-step process. One is code migration. The other is infrastructure migration. And so, you know, value and infrastructure, like, ERC20 converter, for example, we built a specific platform that if you've issued a token on Ethereum, there's a path to reissue that token on our system. And it's going to be better, faster, cheaper, and you're going to be treated as a first-class citizen, not a second-class citizen. So
is that instead of the ERC20 or on top of the ERC20?
What was that?
Is when you issue if you have an Ethereum token and you issue a Cardano token or an ADA token in place of that, is that instead of or on top of? In other words, would you have both tokens?
Migration options. You can do an airdrop. You can do a burn where you actually allow the user to destroy a token to redeem a token. You can do a 2-way peg where they can move between both networks. So it's up to the token issuer to decide what they want to do. And usually this is great for their monetary policy because almost like a season equity offering, as the DeFi, as the DApp is expanding, the user base is expanding, perhaps you do a second issuance when you migrate over and you now have 2 or 3 chains that you live on. What we've noticed with a lot of dApps and DeFi is they are not infrastructure loyal. They launched in Ethereum because it had a network effect, but they want to be cross-chain. So there's a lot of investment going into cross-chain dApp development, a lot of investment going to cross-chain interoperability, where your dApp can talk to many different infrastructures at the same time. And they want the primary operating chain to be the one with the lowest operating cost. It would be a really weird world where you're forced to deploy on Amazon, even though they're 4 times more expensive than, let's say, Azure, but then you just can't migrate off because you have Amazon token instead of Azure token or something.
And so one of the big things in your strategy is to actually give users an easy migration option and effectively to vampire attack the ETH network.
Yeah, basically you can use ETH to do your prototyping, get your network effect, and then you can migrate over to Cardano with a very, very low migration curve. We'll even help you with that migration. And then all of a sudden you're operating an environment that's probably 100 times cheaper, 200 times cheaper to operate, but you still can maintain and preserve your customer base and so forth. That's kind of the dream of the ERC20 converter. And also the reality is people are going to be cross-chain. They're going to have stuff on EOS and stuff on Tezos and stuff on Algorand and stuff on Ethereum and stuff on Cardano. It's a real bad deal to do vendor lock-in. That's what Microsoft did with Internet Explorer and ActiveX and these things in the 90s. And that's not where we want to be as an industry.
That's exactly right. We have got a question here from Connected MCM. He says he's been on Team Cardano or Team ADA since 2017. How does Cardano compare with DOT in terms of interoperability? Will there be ADA wrapping and bridges?
Yeah, so we've already started discussions with ecosystems like Litecoin, for example, and we've built a lot of the foundational cryptographic primitives to discuss the 2 problems you have when you talk about interoperability. So there's the problem of the movement of value, and there you're thinking, have the coins been double spent and do they exist? So there's an existence and non-existence proof that you need. And then the second thing is, how do you move information between the systems? Because not necessarily you want to move state, not necessarily you want to move value, but you want to watch something. Like, let's say you write a smart contract that's watching a smart contract on Ethereum, and it's going to trigger based upon something that occurs. So we've built standards for both the NEPA PALs for proof of work, for example, and we have a proof of stake equivalent of that. And then we also wrote some systematic papers discussing how cross-chain communication works. Now, one of the advantages we have, because we have stake pools in our system, is there's this natural compatibility layer of these permanent 24/7 actors, thousands of them floating around, who you can use to deploy bridge software to make it very easy and friction-free and low cost to be able to move coins into our system and out of our system. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch. One is build up the theory and get great proofs that allow you to know that the things you're getting are great with, and are secure, and actually exist, and et cetera, without having a trusted third party. But then also where you need those trusted third parties for efficiency or insurance or escrow or whatever, they exist there in the system. So we have both of those, and all around Q1 of next year, we're going to start turning those on and discussing those. And we're trying to get real networks to actually start working with us to build out those layers above and beyond just vacuous sidechains. So Litecoin is an example of that, and there are going to be many others that come.
All right, it sounds absolutely amazing from a technological point of view. But for me now is the real question. When I look at Cardano's market cap, and I'm going to check it up, right now Cardano's market cap, ADA, is $5 billion. And I look at Ethereum's market cap is $60 billion. It's over 10x. And I guess that's testament to the number of people building on Ethereum, the venture capital funding on Ethereum, and the general network effect that Ethereum seems to have that most other protocols other than Bitcoin haven't been able to achieve. What's the plan for getting real community engagement, real network effect, VC money coming in?
Something new that you bring to the table. So that we did that with the tech side and the governance side, but then you also have to have new markets. When people invest in Ethereum, what do they say about Ethereum? They say, oh, they have this great network effect. They're a small pond. We're after the ocean. And one of the big things about our project is we have all these great governance deals that we're doing in Africa. It's going to bring millions of users into Cardano. And this is the first time they've ever had economic identity. When we talk about natural users for DeFi, who's going to do your peer-to-peer lending? Who's going to do your peer-to-peer?
But users are only going to use things that are built on the platform. Now, the question is, how do you get people building en masse on the platform? Ethereum has
because they know that the customers are there. The whole reason you build on Ethereum is because there's a network of affecting customers. If Cardano has 100 times or 1,000 times as many potential customers as Ethereum does, the DApp developer, especially if they get to use the same tools, is of course going to deploy on Cardano.
But why would Cardano
deploy on Windows Phone when you deploy on Android? This is the problem Microsoft had.
Why would Cardano have advantage in terms of rolling out to users? I mean, as a competence, Cardano to me is a platform.
We bring 5 million, 10 million, 20 million people into our system, get them economic identity. Suddenly they have KYC and AML. Suddenly they have wallets. Suddenly they have a need. And guess what? They're the people who are unbanked. So if you're a DeFi vendor, who's going to be using your lending, your software, or your DeFi software? Some guy in Silicon Valley who already has a bank account and PayPal and all these other things and good user experience, or some person of Africa where you have a monopoly. That's the key. You have to bring great technology and great platform advantages, but then marry it with real people and real solutions. And that's why you have to be in the developing world, where 70% of the population's at or under the age of 30, internet enabled and unbanked. That's what DeFi is for. And we have an enormous advantage because we've been there for 3 years. Ethereum hasn't. We have all the government relationships. Ethereum does not. And it's going to be super easy for us in the next few years to roll out deals that bring in tens of millions of customers. And if you're a DApp developer, you're going to say, well, what do I want to do? Go sell it to a 20-year-old kid living in his mom's basement in Connecticut? Or do I want to go sell it to farmers in Ethiopia and do collateralized microfinance and issue products that have a 15% return, 30% return for millions of people?
So Charles, tell us a little bit about these deals that you're doing. I know that you said you were going to announce one in Ethiopia. Give us a little bit of a feel of some of these deals that you're doing that are going to help get network effect. I'm specifically also looking to understand what these deals entail. So how are you going to get more wallets, more people being able to hold more ADA tokens or Cardano related tokens?
All right, so let's talk about this. So first off, all of Africa is going through a huge upgrade right now because of globalization. So when Starbucks says something like, we're not going to buy coffee unless you can prove it's made in a sustainable way and there's fair trade, that's not just an empty thing. What that does is it says to the government of Ethiopia, your farmers now have to prove certain things about coffee production. And if they don't prove it, they lose market access to the largest coffee buyer in the world. Little things like that. So then they say, oh God, we need a new system. They say, well, okay, how about blockchain? Maybe we should do something like that. Okay. So then that starts the conversation, and you start negotiating with them, and you say, hey, how about we put a permissioned or permissionless system in, and we roll it out across an entire spectrum, maybe like every college graduate in your country, or the entire payment system of the country, or the digital ID system of the country, or the e-voting system of the country. So they are huge deals in essence. And they start maybe 500,000 people. They can scale up to 5 million, 10 million people per deal. Now, once you have that infrastructure in play, as an architect, you can either narrow scope it and only solve one problem, or you can broad scope it and say, well, hang on a second here. Why don't I give them a digital ID and a digital wallet at the same time? And then suddenly they now are wired into your system. And now, because they're wired into the system, you've not just solved the problem the government's asked you to, but you've now created a user of Cardano, which means if I'm a dApp developer, I can access that person and build infrastructure for that person and so forth. So initially they start low economic value, but over time the system scales up. And as they grow wealthier, the system as a whole grows wealthier.
You keep talking about Ethiopia, and I guess that means that you've got certain deals done in Ethiopia. What about other countries in Africa? Have you made headway with other countries in Africa? Yeah. Which countries? What kind of deals?
Yeah, we have people all around Africa. John O'Connor's our director of African operations. He's half Ethiopian, so obviously there's a little bit of a bias there, and he lives in Addis Ababa. But Ethiopia is just a starting point. We've also had discussions with Rwanda, Uganda. One of our product managers is from Zambia. He has great connections there. In fact, Danel Patel does the identity framework for Cardano. We also know people all throughout the Ivory Coast and other places. It's not a deal flow issue. It's a deal quality issue. You want rule of law. You want to be able to build a public-private partnership because you want the deal to be sustainable. You don't want a situation where you get, somebody says, hey, we'll give this to you, and then 6 months later it gets canceled, a year later it gets canceled. So you have to be very discriminating in these types of things. The other thing is you have to look for that ability to go from narrow scoping to broad scoping, where you know that by installing the system, you can then add a blockchain component, you can then add a digital identity component, then you can actually link it to an open permissionless system like Cardano, so that those users are now available for dApp developers to access. So it takes quite a bit of time to source that and build it out, about 3 to 7 years per deal.
And is this being done by IOHK alone, or are there other companies like IOHK which are doing similar things?
We've seen a lot of blockchain companies running around Africa. Stellar has done some coffee pilots with Kufia. We've seen some.
But I mean specifically on the Cardano blockchain.
Yeah.
Is it all being driven by IOHK? And the reason why I ask this is because if you look at Ethereum, you had the Ethereum Foundation, you then had Consensus, and now you kind of have multiple of these bodies who are all fighting for the protocol, or building, or marketing, or business developing the protocol. Now, I know that you guys at IOHK are doing a fantastic job, but I guess my question is, are there other IOHKs which are incentivized?
Yeah. So this is the point of Voltaire. See, there's this beautiful interconnectedness with our technology. So when you say things like, okay, well, there's this DC fund and that's going to start giving out grants, we've already seen hundreds of people from countries like Nigeria and Kenya and other places form independent groups and ask for funding from that. So the point is that it can start incubating a network. We also sat down and talked to a lot of incubators like ICE Addis, for example, which has a huge network of accelerators throughout Africa. And the advantage is you have these beautiful projects that cost 1/100th to 1/1000th of the money to fund compared to a Silicon Valley project for comparable projects, because of just labor arbitrage and other types of things. So there's some great investments that exist there. There's already accelerator networks, some cases over 40 African countries, and our own community is actually forming hubs, and those hubs will start commercializing. So as we turn on all these capabilities, that's going to be the primary commercial focus that we have in 2021, not just building these great deals, some of which we've been building for years, and now they're starting to turn on, but then also building up the hubs that will start deal flow in local economies. And we can go from a small collection of countries to 20, 30 countries very, very quickly. And so it's one of those things where you're in the right place, the right time. It's kind of like being in China in the 1980s, where everybody's starting to get that this economy is going to explode. Africa's in that same situation. It's just, you have to get the right partners in the room. And you also have to understand the realities of African politics and African business and the relationship building that requires.
Tell me about it. Here I am sitting in Cape Town. Your community is incredibly passionate. I mean, you can see again here, love Cardano. It just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I want to ask you one last question before we bring Joel back into the conversation. How do you get venture capital money? It's like a chicken and egg situation. How do you get the same VCs that are investing in all these Ethereum projects to start investing on Cardano projects?
That's actually not hard, because the pitch shouldn't be build on Cardano. The pitch should be, let's build a great application, and here's where our customer is going to come from, and let's pick the best infrastructure for that. Okay, you're kind of selling to the same 10 people if you build on Ethereum. You're kind of selling that same crowd there. It's just a means to an end. It's just infrastructure. It's kind of like saying, how do we get VCs to invest on web applications built on Amazon EC2? It's like, come on, it's like, that doesn't make sense. You're instead saying, what problem are you trying to solve? Who is your customer? How are you different? Where are you going to get that 10 or 100x over your competitor? And the advantage we have is that we have a network effect where there's real life use cases for the things blockchain is promising. You don't need a digital identity system and a property registration system and a bank stack and a lending stack in America. It's already there. It's already there in Europe. It's already there in China. You can pay people with WeChat in China. But you're going for the adoption first model. Once you've got the adoption, once you've got the spread, then you're going to go and look for the money, because you think that the money is going to be easier to bring in, because you're going to be able to offer them a captive market. Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because not only is this the emerging next economy, because every investor is always looking for the next big thing, you have a lot of impact capital requirements coming on large wealth funds, like Norway, for example, $1.5 trillion, trillion with a T. In that fund, they can no longer buy petrochemicals. They made all their money from oil, but they're no longer allowed to invest in it because of ethical restrictions on the fund. So if you're the investment manager of that Norway sovereign wealth fund, where the hell do you put $1.5 trillion? How do you invest that? So then you have some people saying, hey, there's this cryptocurrency stack that has a economic identity and a social benefit component. And by the way, you might get a China effect where you get 1,000x or 10,000x because 70% of that population is under the age of 30 and they're ready to go. They're ready to be digitized. They're ready to be banked. And there's $6.5 trillion of locked up wealth. Say, sure, all right, let's put a percentage point into it and see where it goes. What's 1% of $1.5 trillion? And you have a lot of that going on with BlackRock and all these other guys. Where
I hear you. I've been following the money. I know I said one more question before I hand it over to Joel, but sitting here in Africa and hearing you speak, I have a question which may not be a comfortable question, but one that needs to be asked from anyone who's doing business in Africa. Mm-hmm. Africa is corrupt. I know, because I had 70 offices around Africa in different countries. And I know how corrupt and unreliable African regimes may be. I know that when you think you've got something done, it often isn't done. Right. I know that sometimes it requires paying money under the table. It requires bribing ministers, et cetera, et cetera. How do you deal with something like that? And again, the reason why I ask that is because I know some of your team are African, but ultimately you guys are sitting in the US or sitting wherever you guys are sitting and claiming that you're going to be able to roll out into Africa. Many have tried, many have failed. In fact, very, very, very few have succeeded in an Africa rollout.
I got a great story about that. There was a deal with a certain African ministry that we bid on. We underbid it because we really wanted the deal, and we were going to take it at a massive loss. And then they gave it to another company that bid it 5 times less than us. So I've experienced that no deal. You're absolutely right about that. we have people who are on the ground, and most of the products we deploy in Africa are built by Africans. We start with education. We enter the country, we train up a cohort of people, we teach them how to be developers. Then we have the local people actually build solutions. So we don't design those solutions in America. We design them in Ethiopia, or we design them in other African countries. So that's the first point, is you have to go local, or else you don't understand the jurisdiction. Second, the key to ameliorating corruption is balancing two things. One, it's a game theory problem. We deal with corruption in crypto land. The exchanges are corrupt. The regulators are corrupt. There's all kinds of nasty actors here. We always say, oh, Africa's so bad. Look how corrupt they are. Look how bad Mt. Gox was, or all these other things. We as an industry are not immune to our sins. So the key is incentives. You build public-private partnerships where corruption actually reduces overall profit for everybody. And so the PPP actually has an incentive to keep people honest. Second, you realize that the only way Africa is ever going to regain credibility is by adopting technology that can't lie, adopting technology that actually has to be trustworthy. This is why blockchain is perfect for Africa. They have a credibility gap, a trust gap. When you go talk to American investors, they're so skeptical. They say, oh, no, we don't want to put money into Africa because we're just going to lose it. So
I guess Charles, the proof goes into the pudding. Joel, exactly. You've heard the ADA story, or the Cardano story. You've looked at the Cardano charts. What do you say after speaking to or hearing from Charles when you put the two together? When you put the chart together and you put the story together, are you buying more ADA at these levels?
Yeah, absolutely. Like ADA, I mean, if you look at the last bullet, if we're just going to talk about the dollar amount, which I know Charles gives no crap about, but if you're looking at it from a charting perspective, it definitely looks like it's going to go. And it did last time after, about a week or two after Bitcoin had its top, it went with all the other altcoins, and that could happen again. But from what I hear, like it's always a pleasure to listen to Charles and hear like the perspectives that he brings, because he's keeps it real and really straightforward. And there's things that I really think with the ERC converter, it really sounds like ERC killer. It's just the way that it's all set up and how you can kind of move from one to the other. It does seem like that's maybe one of the goals with it. The question I have for Charles actually is, are you building all this so that at one point when things are really at the point of decentralization, that you can kind of step away and just let the blockchain and the ecosystem do its thing without you?
Yeah, you see, the key behind great projects is that the founder is a value add and accelerator, but not a necessity for the success of the ecosystem. And victory for me would be I'm just one of thousands of voices, and I'm not necessary, but it's nice to be there. And there's a veneration, but there's by no means a requirement. Like Vint surfed with the internet. We had him speak at our summit in July, and Vint created the internet, created TCP/IP. Is Vint necessary for the internet? No, but we all love him, we all respect him. He's a cool guy to bring. He's a snazzy dresser and so forth. And that's my hope for what we do with Cardano. And success to me is to have hundreds of millions and eventually billions of users. And we ask questions like, how do you combat the corruption, or how do we get the network effect? I can't do that. I can only start that process, and by bringing people in who are mission oriented over time together as a group, we can do that. And when you have an army of 10 million people, 100 million people, you can just get anything done. You can go to Mars, you can rebuild the entire world if you want to. And the time has come for that. I'm tired of cynicism. I'm tired of people just saying we can't. Elon Musk woke up one day, said we're going to go to Mars. He created SpaceX. He said we're going to do battery powered cars. He did Tesla. Everybody thought it was impossible. And every step of the way, they bid against them. So we say, well, let's get the first principles right. Let's get the technology right. Let's get the network effect right. And let's make sure we grow and we never lose. So when we gain somebody, they don't leave the ecosystem. And as we keep gaining people, the ecosystem keeps getting better. And at one point, you have 1 million people. And then what can't we do with that kind of people and so forth? And it's just extraordinary. I've seen people with tattoos with our logo on their body. I've been all throughout Africa. Everywhere I go, there's just so many amazing people there, and they want to build. And they don't want to build something to go win people in California. They want to build something to solve a problem in Kampala. They want to build something to solve a problem in Kigali. They're very local in their aspirations and their goals, and they couldn't care less about what's happening in Berlin or something like that.
Now, as you can see, I've brought in Adrian Bashuk. Adrian is one of our producers. He was my producer at CNBC, traveled the world with me, has met Charles many times. Adrian, after hearing this, What do you think about Cardano? And more importantly, what are the social airwaves talking about when they talk about Cardano or the ADA token?
I mean, Cardano has long been a favorite. We've talked about it on CNBC specifically in studio. It's hope for a network effect and starting from the ground up rather than the top on down and VCs on down. It's more of a bottom up approach, which users want and want to be part of that network effect. It depends if we can gain adoption, as we say, in the holy grail, essentially, of the next tech frontier and adoption frontier, which would be Africa.
All right, so we're all sold on Africa. You're all welcome to come visit us in Africa. Let's start off with Cape Town, even though Cape Town probably won't feel like much of Africa.
One last thing. We're not just exclusively Africa. It's what I care about. I invest a lot of my time, but I have people in Mongolia, the country of Georgia. We, of course, have the traditional European plays and other things. And this is why there are other companies in our space. Like Emergo, for example, focuses on Asia, and they have great traction in Indonesia, Malaysia, these other places. And then, of course, we're competitive in the DeFi space. We're building all kinds of things there, and we'll announce them throughout next year. And those have a Western orientation. But, everybody has to have a reason why they do what they do, a raison d'etre of their passion. And that's the world that is developing. And I see that there's a beautiful play to be made in Africa that's the same as China in the 1980s. And if we get on that wave and ride it, it's going to be equally large or perhaps even bigger. And China agrees. It's why they put $1 trillion into that continent over the last 10 years. And America is starting to dump money into that as well. So that's my big bet as a CEO of my company. But by no means is it the bet of Cardano alone. I mean, the reality is Cardano is a technological leviathan. It does everything Ethereum does and more. It's faster, cheaper, better. And if you're building a DApp, regardless of your market or who you're at, it's just a better place to put it there in general.
Charles,
so I just want to put that caveat there.
I think I agree with you. And I think that the feat of any protocol, and especially one like Ethereum or Cardano, is that it can continue to operate without the company and without the founder. But I'm intrigued to understand how much money IOHK has to keep pushing the mission of Cardano. How well funded is this company?
I'm a very rich man, Red, and this is a mission for me. So I can do this for a long, long time if I want to. And I'm only 33, so I'm going to be doing this until probably my 50s or 60s.
Well, what a brilliant note to part with. Charles, it's been an absolute pleasure. Every time I see you, it's absolutely amazing, whether it's in Mexico, it's Satoshi Roundtable, whether it's here in South Africa. Whenever I see you, I learn a lot. I think all our viewers learned a lot. You've got a very vibrant community. Thank you so much for coming on Crypto Banter. We look forward to seeing what else you guys are doing. Joel, you're back. You're going to be back tomorrow because the lines are going crazy. They all want coach. They all want coach. They all want coach. That's all we have time for with you guys today. Adrian, I want to come back to you and talk about the social airways. Every day you scour the social networks, Telegram, Twitter, and give us a feel for the sentiment of what's happening in the market. What is happening out there in the market today?
Well, I'm wearing my NASA hat this week because A, it's been good luck with the markets. B, we're on a moon mission. And China just landed on the moon today, right? So in the U.S., as a backdrop, we've got Secretary Mnuchin and Jerome Powell testifying before the Senate, not the House, the Senate, a much bigger deal. We've got China landing on the moon. We had Bitcoin hit all-time high yesterday, kind of plummet down under 19K in the early morning hours.
Landing on the moon and coming back. I mean, if you were to look at it
now,
like that.
And now we're back trading in that range of 19.1 to 19.5. A lot of people see some support in there, so it's very interesting. But let's go to the socials and let's talk alts, okay? I mean, you can talk Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, the majors for days, but what are people looking for? They're looking for altcoins.
People want alts.
There's been a lot of talk. And I'm scouring socials to see what people are talking about, and let's go and see literally what people are mostly looking at. J Cycle says alts will melt your faces, and you know it. Okay, Bitcoin's been fun and all, but I think I can speak for us all when I say that I'm ready for the altcoin party. Who's with me? That's Trader Kaz, Lark Davis, Crypto Lark. This week I bought more Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Polkadot for long-term bags, but I have a short list of altcoins that I'm watching, and he's got a ton of engagement on things like that. People are calling Ocean, KSM, HTR, and XOR.
So the question,
let me run.
Everybody wants an alt season. Adrian, everybody wants an alt season, but I wonder why everybody wants an alt season. Is it because they think that Bitcoin doesn't have 5x and 10x short-term gains potential, or is it because they're holding alt bags, and the alt bags are so much lower than where they first bought them that people are now scrambling to try and get their money back, and then almost praying for an alt season? So this is not really about fundamentally an alt season should be here, but more around saying, we just want this because we want our bags to be back at break even.
Look, we're looking at Lunar Crush, which is a great social indicator, and their Galaxy score on top 10 alts, and their most trending searches as of yesterday. You can see that on your screen. To answer your question, there's kind of three kind of crypto believers here. You have Bitcoin maximalists and OGs who, and much like us, the philosophical bent, who believe in a decentralized new take on monetary policy and absolutely are believers in terms of its philosophical basis. Then on the trading front, yes, you have people who got in on that run in 2017 or holding bags, but then you have hardcore traders who've traded the market up and down the last 3 years and are using the alts and the alt cycles to accrue more Bitcoin, or just simply make those bigger gains, because you're not going to get a 5-10x immediately. But if you can go on the socials and you see this DeFi craze that happened August, September, you had 5, 10, 20x on some of these tokens. You had a 70% pullback, but now people are looking back at some of these DeFis. SNX going up for breakout round 2. Is it on its way to all-time highs? We talked about SNX yesterday. Shelby, Crypto Newton tweeting sushi time. We see sushi that came on up yesterday. You can check GMAC, and GMAC has a great Telegram group as well. The trend is your friend. Octo, people are talking about Octo. Zora just got listed on Uniswap yesterday. You can see
I think we should try and get GMAC here on our show talking about all these altcoin swaps. Adrian, my suspicion is that the smart VCs got into all these early stage deals and made 10 times, 100 times their money. But I think that the crowd cashed in their Bitcoin and caught the top. And now they're trying to claw themselves up. And at the same time, what they're doing is they're chasing an ever increasing Bitcoin price. And so if your break even was X and Bitcoin is now doubled, your break even to get back the same amount of Bitcoin is now 2X. And that's why most people are here praying for an alt season, literally sitting down and going, this is not what we think fundamentally needs to happen, but we need this to make our money back.
Right. Fortunately and unfortunately, it's an echo chamber. You have only a finite amount of traders who are trading these markets, and you see shifting sentiments going into certain tokens, as I showed here. I mean, Hathor, HTR, up 80% just yesterday. 80% in a day. Oro is another one that people think might break out to its all-time high again. Hedgic Pulse and RFI. Here's two much talked about alts. Hedgic in the DeFi world, and definitely follow DeFi Pulse on Telegram. You can see a lot of DeFi trending tokens there. And you're right. While it is an echo chamber, there are gains to be made, no doubt.
Alrighty, so that's what's happening on the social networks. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, talking about anything that's happening between today and tomorrow in the crypto world. So from me, Crypto Man Run, right here in Cape Town, good night. See you all tomorrow.
That's CryptoBanter.com, where you talk crypto.